Hello, dear friends. Christos Voskresie. Christ has risen. Congratulate everybody with the holiday of light, of the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ, whose entire ministry came to this moment. Because at this moment, this is what it all meant. If there's any questions about who Christ was, it were set aside when he resurrected. And speaking of ministries and speaking of things ethereal, we have the ethereal Trump trade war. It's going to be a relatively short video, I think, today. I got people coming over, and we're going to have a nice Easter or Pascha cookout. So Christ, for Christ's sakes. So Trump, sorry about that, Trump trade policies, that is tariff, is morphing when it comes to China. Now, every president has a right to defend, or he should, actually, it's not even a right, he should defend the industrial base in his country and the business in his country. U.S., of course, helped its oligarchs leave the U.S. I remember when insurance companies refused to insure factories that were moving to China. So the U.S. government bought them the insurance. The U.S. government was paying, just to keep this straight, U.S. government was paying, effectively subsidizing the cost of the move of U.S. factories to China, putting Americans out of business. So yes, there you go for that. That's George Bush Jr., that's Clinton, to some degree Obama. So, but Trump's policies have morphed because the Chinese have stood their ground, and they can. And it's their right to defend their own markets, of course. They can tariff what they want coming to the U.S., which Trump was expecting them to come and negotiate and make a deal, like the weak powers, especially the European weak powers and the weak powers in Latin America have done. Some of them have done. This is what Trump was expecting. He didn't get that. So he threw a bit of a temper tantrum, popped in more and more and more and more. When it got to 125% on America, 145% on China, the Chinese at this point said, you know, we're not going to bother raising them anymore because this is ridiculous and it doesn't matter anymore because we're just not buying American. And they're buying from Russia, they're buying from Australia, they're buying from Brazil, they're buying from a lot of places because China, the things that China buys from the U.S. Are mostly raw resources or foodstuffs, or base components like base chemicals. It can buy them in many other markets. U.S. doesn't have a monopoly on this stuff, and it's doing that. Oh, I got allergies. If you haven't figured out why I've got bags under my eyes, I've got allergies. It's like 21, 22 degrees where I'm at right now. It's going to be about 26 today. Everything's in bloom. Everything's in bloom. So the antihistamines are kind of like, yeah, well, you know, either give us 3 more, you know, we'll do the job and you'll go to sleep, or, you know, suffer through it. So I'm going to suffer through it. But again, I lived in North Carolina, where at this time of year, everything turns yellow with tree sperm. Particularly pine tree sperm. You see the wind blowing through a grove of pine trees, and it comes out the other end green. This green mass, like out of some movie, horror movie. You know, the zombie plague's about to hit, and effectively it does hit, because the people with the allergies, which is probably the majority, they turn into living, the Walking Dead. And everybody's half zoned out because of allergies, breathing tree sperm. Sorry, digressed. Yeah, my eyes are dry too. That's why I'm snorting and blinking all the time. Anyway, so what now? So Trump has decided to up the ante, where he is telling countries that you will have zero tariffs from us, and you can trade directly and just dump your imports into the U.S. In exchange for blocking all business transactions with China. So now we've gone from a tariff to restore America to a trade war, which, by the way, backstabs America. Because to get these countries into this deal, and I can't see too many of them doing it, because the U.S. is not the market it used to be, first of all, and China is, by PPP, outranks the U.S. by about a third of the economy, by purchasing power parity. Only sophomores do FX. It's convenient because you don't have to think much, and they sell it to you that way. Which, by the way, if we go by straight FX, Russia in the last 2 months has gotten 20% richer, and America 20% poorer. Because FX changed. Went from about a little under 100 rubles to a dollar to about 82, 83 rubles to a dollar. Oh, see, that's how FX works. It's ridiculous. It's sophomoric. It doesn't even work inside the U.S. because the difference between Arkansas and, say, California are basically two different nations. If you topped in FX, what the dollar can buy in one, what the dollar buys in the other, tax base and so on. So anyway, so now we're into full-fledged financial and economic war. But to do this, the U.S. has gone back to its old standard of the way the U.S. courted the Asian powers. And it's in its own time, the Europeans, the Western Europeans, but the Asian powers like Japan, South Korea, the Asian tigers, as they used to be called. The way they courted them was, do as we say, be strictly on our side, and you can dump everything you manufacture into our market, tariff-free, whatever. We don't mind. Of course, that was competition against countries that had much lower costs of production overall, and that was massive damage to the U.S. economy. It drove a lot of Americans out of business, and drove a lot of factories to other places, and it drove a lot of American employees into the poorhouse. So there. So the U.S. is back to doing that. Tried and true method. So much for America first. So much for restoring American industry. Because you're now allowing, we got 70 countries. I highly doubt they got 70 countries. But those countries that sign up are going to be allowed to just dump into the U.S. anything and everything without any kind of constraints, without tariffs, without anything, as long as they block China. So we're right there. We're back into a economic war, direct economic war with China, which again is great because for Russia, anyways, because the main break on expanding Russian-Chinese trade has been Chinese banks. But now that they've declared a financial economic war against China, and there's all constant talk about destroying China, same thing as it was destroying Russia. That really worked out well. Well, the Chinese have absolutely no incentive to do anything but expand with Russia. And Beijing will probably now really start paying attention to its top banks and banking sector about how they're running things. So we'll see. We'll see. So I think in that side, things will expand. U.S. forever. It's hilarious, really. The U.S. Oh, we don't want China and Russia to get too close. Let's try to destroy Russia. Oh, China and Russia got too close. Let's try to destroy China and get Russia on our side, because everybody but Americans are absolute cretins. They can't figure out what's coming next. Yeah, we're the smartest people. Well, no. It doesn't work that way. Everybody's seen the writing on the wall. If anything, right now, there's going to be massive push, especially from the Chinese and Russia, for a BRICS currency. And I don't think the Indians are going to be able to really block it the way they've been blocking it for the Americans, first and foremost. India has been America's backdoor into BRICS to try to freeze and try to derail BRICS. All right. Sorry about that. And got tired of holding. Sorry. Technical issues. Anyways, so yeah, India's been the major Trojan horse I don't know how long that's going to keep up, because any more American sanctions on Russian oil or gas, as well as Iranian, that hits the Indian economy hard. That's death blows to large sections of the Indian economy. So I really don't understand how long Modi is going to be playing this game. And then we've got the issue of the French and the British. They want to do a run to Odessa. Now, Odessa, there was a French duke that was the first governor of Odessa under Katerina the Great, who founded Odessa. The French were also based out of there during the intervention during the Russian Civil War. So they've decided that they're going to grab that port. Of course, what that will translate into is a lot of dead French and Brits. That area is under constant observation. The moment they start moving in, they're going to start getting hit by rocket fire, missile fire. Well, you know, and the French will go the way the French go. So we'll live and see. Either way, it will be interesting. God bless. Christ is risen.